Hi everyone, I'm Randy Arrington and welcome to episode 118 of Page Valley Livin. We're here today at the Ralph Dean Park to talk to the director of the Page County Recreation Department, Andrew Good. We're going to talk to him about his time with the county here with the rec department and what kind of programs they offer throughout the year. A lot more than you think, I bet. And we're going to talk a little bit about what we know up to this point about plans for a new recreation center in Page County. A lot of things are left undecided at this point, but we'll kind of maybe get a little bit of an update and talk about maybe some of the benefits of that project moving forward. We'll also talk about upcoming programs such as flag, football, and volleyball. All of that and more when we visit with Andrew Good, the director of the Page County Recreation Department, in episode 118 of Page Valley Livin'. We'll be back with all of that and more in just a moment after a word from our sponsor. At Luray Caverns, from well-lighted paved walkways, explore cathedral-sized rooms with ceilings 10 stories high, and walk among huge chambers filled with towering stone columns. Come visit Geology's Hall of Fame, only at Luray Caverns. Visit them online at luraycaverns.com to plan your trip today. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Page Valley Livin'. We want to say thanks to our sponsor, Luray Caverns. We are filming episode 118 today on Tuesday, June the 2nd, out here at Ralph Dean Park on kind of a windy Tuesday, but we're going to be airing this episode for the first time on Wednesday, June the 3rd. Andrew, I want to first of all say thank you for being out here today and coming to talk to us. We wanted to learn a little bit about the rec department. First of all, let's learn a tidbit about you. How long have you been with the county, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I started with the county. I just came up on 4 years here in March.
Oh, wow, 4 years. I didn't realize it'd been that long. Okay.
Yeah, I know. It went by pretty fast. So we're coming up on 5 here next year. Before that, I worked for Harrisonburg Parks and Rec, and then I was actually a middle school teacher here at Luray Middle School for 3 years.
I knew the middle school part. I didn't know about the Harrisonburg Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
And you're a Bulldog,
Yep.
right? And you graduated what year from LHS?
I graduated LHS in 2011, and then I graduated from Radford with a Bachelor's of Science in Exercise, Sport, and Health Education with a concentration in Sport Administration.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, it looks like they found the right guy there. Plenty of credentials and all. So you've been at it for 4 years now. What have you found to be one of maybe the most challenging things about the job?
I think just with scheduling in general is always pretty challenging with weather.
Yeah.
Weather's
right.
always throwing, a wrench in our plans, and then just making sure, we have coaches with flex schedules, or they're working nights one week and days the other week. And
right.
then whenever a game gets canceled or we have to move something, trying to schedule all of that together is always hard. When I first got into the job, I would say finding coaches was probably one of the more difficult ones. But now that I'm here, now that we're kind of in a rhythm, I have, my old coaches to fall back on. And so instead of trying to find 10 or 15 coaches in one season, trying to only find 2 or 3 makes that a lot easier.
What about finding officials? Is that harder than coaches?
It depends on the sport. Soccer, I've been really lucky with officials. I have plenty of people that want to do it. In fact, I feel bad because there's some, I don't know if I have time or the ability to give you time out here to officiate this game, whereas like basketball, it's a little bit harder to find officials. Luckily, again, with me being a middle school teacher, a lot of times, a lot of the officials, about half of them I probably taught.
Oh, okay.
So when this group, the group that I taught is graduating this year, so when they start getting out of here, it'll be a little harder to find, but hopefully the kids that I've had in rec in the past, I'll have that relationship and be like, some of my old rec kids will be like, hey, I'm old enough now. We did rec for 4 years. Would you have any need for officials or coaches? Or so it's always great when you see like your old students or old participants in rec.
That is a great connection. That's a great connection. Yeah. Well, we talked about the obstacles. What has been the rewarding part of the job over the last 4 years?
I think just watching the kids grow, and especially now from year to year. Mm-hmm. And now we have kids that in soccer, basketball, you saw when they maybe had their first season.
Okay.
And then where they were struggling, And now you see them as an excellent player. You see them put those skills together season after season and build upon that foundation. And I think that's always probably the most fun part of the job, is just watching them grow. And even now, like in high school, watching some of them kids play as they get older and as the competition gets harder.
That's fantastic. That's interesting. Well, you know what? I think there's a lot of people out there watching today that they hear about youth athletics and they think, well, we have the Luray Little League and we have the Youth Football League, and what does the Page County Recreation Department even do? I mean, I imagine y'all have y'all touch more than one life during the year. Tell us about some of the programs you got.
Yeah, so we do programs year round. I usually only get a week or two between programs to try to get the next one started. Fall, we always do soccer. Fall soccer is probably our biggest program.
Okay.
If we look at our just the number of participants. Then right after fall soccer, we start boys basketball for about 10, 11 weeks.
Okay.
But we have, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and then New Year's in between. So
Right.
it's a couple more weeks than my normal program because we have so many holidays. Then after boys program, we do get into girls basketball.
Okay.
One of the things we run into is that we just don't have enough gym space to run them both at the same time.
Okay.
So after girls basketball, we jump into spring soccer. It's another one of our big programs. Not quite as big as fall soccer, but close. And then right after spring soccer, we do volleyball. We started youth volleyball my first year. I did a survey of programs that people would want to see, and youth volleyball was by far the biggest program that came out of that survey.
Wow.
So we got a grant from Dick's Sporting Goods, got some equipment, and we started volleyball program, and that's been one of our bigger programs since we've started.
I bet the volleyball coaches at the high schools are loving that.
I hope so.
Start developing them when they're young. That's really, you go and look at some of the high school programs that are consistently good, and I will almost guarantee you at an 80% rate that those communities also have great youth programs, because I've seen it happen in different sports and in different communities. So let's talk numbers now. You told us about the programs you have. You offer them year round for youth and some for adult as well. How many? What are some of the numbers associated with? How many kids are we talking about in some of these programs?
Depending on the sport, soccer we're usually sitting around between 250 to 300.
Wow. Okay.
And that falls a little bit bigger. Fall's usually been around 270 to 280. Whereas spring soccer, I think we had right around 250 this spring. Basketball, I think boys we had 180 and girls we had about 120.
Soccer amazes me. That has taken over almost as in terms of youth sports, almost like the new baseball. Because when I was growing up, summertime it was Little League baseball. That's about all there was, right? I mean, that's all you really could play, and that's what everybody did. The numbers were huge, and we've seen those numbers kind of dwindle over the years. I guess more things to do, more opportunities, things like this. But wow, 250 to 300. That's a big crowd of kids.
Yep.
And what was the basketball? Basketball was 180 or so?
Yeah, the boys were 180, the girls were about 120.
What about the adult programs?
So adult programs, I do run a men's league, a men's basketball league. I do that as a fundraiser to help raise funds for scholarships and youth equipment and things like that. For men's league, we're full every year. I cap it out at 72.
Oh, wow.
Just because gym space again and make sure that we can get everything done in one night. And so men's league is full. We do a golf league in the spring. That one's usually full. Golf tournament, we've been full the last 2 or 3 years. And I open up for adult volleyball for a women's, because I do a men's league, so I figure I should offer something for women's.
Sure.
We haven't had it in a year or two because we just haven't had the number, but that's always open.
What about co-ed for volleyball?
Last year I did put out a co-ed interest form, and we just didn't quite get enough.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, that is a lot going on throughout the year between the adult programs, the youth programs, and all of that. And we talked about some of the ups and downs of that, but it sounds like you got a pretty good handle on that. But one of the things to lead us into our second segment here in just a moment, one of the issues is facilities. What type of facilities? We're obviously here at Ralph Dean Park. You use the soccer field that's behind us. What other facilities in the county do you utilize?
We utilize quite a few. We use a lot of the school facilities. So for soccer, we utilize the middle school here at Luray. That whole outside where it used to be the softball field. We do the majority of our soccer programs there. Once the kids get older and they get to graduate to this field, they get to come up here and play on this one, which is just about high school regulation. That's for soccer. For basketball, we utilize quite a few elementary schools. We'll utilize Stanley Elementary, Luray Elementary, Springfield Elementary. And then for volleyball, we'll utilize some elementary schools, and we'll also utilize some of the middle schools. And we've done the high schools in the past. Luckily, the schools have always been really great about working with us if they're open.
Right.
And so we do have that support to be able to utilize those facilities when available.
Well, that's going to come right into our second segment, folks. One of the big topics in the county being talked about, well, not just now, maybe the last couple of years, has been the potential construction of a new rec center in the county. Because if I'm not mistaken, the county doesn't have any facilities that are directly theirs. It's either the schools or, like, this is part of the town of Luray. Is there any facilities that are specifically the county's?
We have some land that the county owns, but as far as facilities that we would use for recreation, we do not.
Okay, because I know there's a little park at Alma. There was some talk of maybe putting a soccer field there and some other things. But we're going to talk about that when we come back. We can't get into a lot of details because right now the project is kind of in flux. But we're going to get a little bit of an update and talk about some of the benefits of having a new rec center, as well as a couple of programs that are looking for sign-ups in the next couple of days. We'll talk about all that more when we come back in just a moment after another word from our sponsor. At Luray Caverns, the Smithsonian Institution said, quote, "It is safe to say there is probably no other cave in the world more completely and profusely decorated than that of Luray. Come see Mother Nature showing off, only at Luray Caverns. Visit them online at luraycaverns.com to plan your trip today." Welcome back, everyone. We're here today talking with Andrew Good. We're in Ralph Dean Park talking about the Page County Recreation Department. And in the first segment, we talked about all of the different programs that they offer for adults and kids, touching hundreds of lives each year. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the fact that this department, serving literally hundreds of people, has almost no facilities. They do use gymnasiums with the school system, which is also owned by the county, of course. They use fields like the one behind us here at Ralph Dean Park for soccer and other sports. But right now, Andrew, we're going to talk about a hot topic. It's been going around and around for a couple of years. I know the location has been an issue, cost has been an issue, and where folks maybe were, I would say, overwhelmingly in favor of this project, then all of a sudden we had something called reassessment. And real estate taxes bills are getting ready to go up. The ones people are getting in the mail, actually this week probably, or that they're paying up to June 5th when the deadline, but the ones they'll also be getting for December. They're seeing a little higher bill, and maybe some of the enthusiasm is starting to go a little bit, but from what I have seen in the recent Board of Supervisors meeting, the board seems very supportive of this project. It is something that has been talked about at least 2 years. I would imagine longer than that. There has been some back and forth on locations and things like that. But let's just start out with something kind of easier, because I know obviously as the recreation director, you're a proponent of this project and would like to see this happen. So for some of the naysayers or people that are on the fence out there, tell me a little bit of the benefits, why this would be a good project for Page County.
Yeah, so when we think about the rec center, whenever I market it, whenever we look at grants and stuff, we kind of look at it as of a community center. So it's not just sports, which is what a lot of people might kind of gravitate towards, and that's great. That is what most of our programs are, but it's a community center, so it's a center where businesses could come and teach classes. It's a place where we could have big events. Community events. Maybe one of the big things I was looking at was like a community yard sale where people could come in and sell their stuff, or small businesses, similar to like a flea market. But the biggest benefit for me and for our programs does gravitate towards youth sports. We are lucky to be able to use the gyms, and like I said, we never get pushed back, and that is great. But we are scattered. We're all around. We're constantly driving from one gym to another. My families are going all across the county. And it happens a lot. We have a brother that's practicing at Stanley, and then we have the other brothers practicing at Luray.
Oh, wow.
And so you have the parents are constantly taking them apart. So the big goal is to kind of centralize our programs. So when we look at the overall scale of the rec center, we want a place that we can have enough space to be able to do everything at one location, whether it be basketball, soccer, volleyball, any of the programs that we run. And I think that would really help with not only our parents, it would help with the kids. We think about like our after school programs.
Right.
Having somewhere centralized where we can have, an after school recreation program from 3:30 to 5.
Right, right.
And I think having a space like that and a space to be able to utilize just for the community in general would be very beneficial, not only for, our time and our travel, but also for the health and wellness of the community.
And also probably would help with scheduling some too, because sometimes you, I'm sure, have conflicts and you have to move things around and juggle all the time. So definitely a lot of easy to see benefits here. Well, one of the things obviously that folks are concerned about is cost. Like we just talked about, taxes are going to go up this year or are going up this year with real estate. What are some of the costs involved? And the one thing that impressed me, at least the last time that this project, maybe a few months back, 6 months ago or so, when it looked like it maybe was getting ready to actually take flight, one of the things that I thought was very interesting was that it was going to be a multi-use facility with things built into it to generate revenue to maybe, if not pay for itself in total, at least take over a large part of the expenses. Is that right?
Yeah, so when we look at cost of the rec center, one of the big things that I've looked at, especially when it comes to, government-owned rec centers, is they do want a return on the rec center.
Right.
Most of the time you're looking at a 70-30, 80-20, which means that out of the 100%, we are returning 70% of the money, or we're bringing back in 70% of the money. A really good, well-run rec center is bringing in 80% of their money.
Meaning that 20 or 30% is what it's really costing.
That's what you would be really costing if that was, if that's what it ended up being.
That's a pretty good deal. I mean, obviously, folks would maybe like to see a zero net, but I think that's almost unrealistic.
I think it does depend on how you look at it. If you look at the books just for the rec center, yes, it would probably be hard to generate that money to zero. But what we can do, and what some of the people in business that I've talked to, is that we can do like a feasibility study. And so what we can do is they can use geo-tracking of other similar facilities. And they can see, all right, well, this facility, they had 1,000 people come in this weekend.
Right.
Of those 1,000 people, 300 of them stayed at a hotel or an Airbnb. 500 of them went out to eat. And so with that, we can say how much other tax revenue did that rec center bring in. And so you won't be able to see that on the books of the rec center.
Now, I know you went over and studied the rec facility over in Rockingham near Penlard, I think is right?
I've toured quite a few.
Okay, church. Yeah. I know that was one of them. So didn't you see some of those type of feasibility studies? Because that's where you got the information that, well, this facility is able to return this much in revenue to cover expenses.
Yeah, the ones that I saw were not from any of the local facilities.
Oh, okay.
It was just from some contacts that I had in the business that shared some, but they were a little bit more towards West Virginia.
If this project comes to fruition, let's say the next meeting that they say, all right, we're just going to move forward. I know they're not going to do that. We're going to talk about where we're at in a second. But if they were going to move forward tomorrow, what would be the one thing about the project that would excite you the most?
I think just the ability to build our programs.
Yeah.
And to not be so, right now I feel like every program is rushed because we need time, gym space, and being able to actually devote some more time to the programs, have the seasons be longer, have more opportunity for practices, have that more opportunity for adult stuff. I would love to see more adult stuff, because when I was 21, I would have killed to have an opportunity to go play basketball 5 minutes away, and be able to have something for the community itself to enjoy. And when I think about how I would have loved to have that when I was younger, I think that is what excites me, is to be able to present that opportunity, present that to the community.
Well, I know the project has been round and round, and it's been, the location's been battered around, and we don't need to get into that part of it. But could you just give us, I think I generally know, but could you just give us like a 30-second or a 60-second thumbnail of where are we at now?
Right now we are still in the process of figuring out what exactly we want to do. And so depending on what opportunities might present themselves in the future, I think we're still going to have to come back and work with the board, work with some of our other businesses that we've worked with, and decide what direction we want to go. Do we have to decide whether we want it to be more of a business model? Do we want it to be more kind of private, where we're looking at just profits? Are we looking at just trying to make money? Or do we want something to be more community-based? Something that, hey, we might not make as much money, but we are really targeting the community to come in here and be able to take classes, to be able to have a business come in and teach, and be able to have, more of our youth stuff on the weekends, on the weekdays, things like that. So I think right now it's trying to figure out which direction we want to go, and whether we want it to be more of a community center, or whether we want it to be focused on, hey, we can have this for the community, but we're trying to make money.
When you put it that way, I have a question that comes to mind, and it makes me think, and you tell me if I'm wrong in sort of thinking this way. It's sort of a situation of, is this going to be completely free, or are we going to ask for membership fees? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, that would just depend on, I think, the cost of the building, the expenses of the building. I did look at membership fees when I presented it to the board.
Yeah.
And that did cover a good percentage of the, my projected expenditures, but that's also a question for the community and a question for the board. Is this something, we want to eat to provide that to the community, something that we want to have, or is it something that, if it helps pay for itself, is that something that people would be willing to pay? Would they be willing to pay $30 a month to have this center to be able to come and do? So it's still something that we would want feedback for, we'd want to do more numbers for, and we want to see exactly, what size building that we have.
Yeah.
Do we have a big building? How much does this building cost? Does a payment come with it? How much are we paying out of pocket for it? Right. And so I think all of that comes into the picture, and we just haven't quite got there yet. We have to figure out what direction we want to go.
Well, from a funding perspective, I think that the last plan that was, like I said, close to look like it was going to move forward, divided that up between maybe borrowing, taking a little bit out of the reserve funds and using some of the money that would be generated through the facility. And it didn't all come from one pot. In other words, it was kind of spread around, and I think that was a very good plan. I think this is going to happen eventually. I don't know if it's going to take another 2 years or another 10 years. I think eventually we're going to have an rec center in this county. I do think it will serve the public. I do think it's something that is needed in many ways. Can we get by without it? Well, sure, I guess we can. We can also probably get by without a rec department, but do we want to? No, we don't, Andrew. We don't want to do without a rec department. So I think that's something that, and I do applaud the board for at least not rushing into it as they have done other things in the past, but taking their time to really study and think about the best way to do it. So I'll move on. I won't put any more pressure on that, because I do know it's a kind of a hot button issue. Let's end up right now with talking about two programs that you want to punch, and the deadline is approaching. Tell us about them.
Yes, so we are doing flag football. We're trying to start that up. It would be our inaugural season. But flag football registrations will end on Sunday, and then our normal youth volleyball registrations would also end on Sunday. So those are our two programs that would start as early as next week if we get enough coaches and volunteers to be able to move forward and make rosters. And
now the flag football is new. Now let me repeat that for everybody listening. So Sunday the 7th, I think is June right. 7th. Sunday the 7th is the last day to register for the youth flag football program or volleyball program. Now, the flag football is new. Tell me a little bit about that and how that came about and who's running it and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so flag football, I have gotten, throughout the years, you have a couple people reach out about flag football. And then when it comes to those surveys that I do, flag football is probably second to volleyball. And so it seems like I had enough community support to try to start it. And we also got a part-time position open in the department. And so that helps out. So he's going to be helping out with flag football and volleyball, and that frees me up because normally beforehand it was just me. And so it's hard to do two sports when you have to be two locations. And so now having another partner when it comes to doing these programs, I think that'll open us up, and this will kind of be our test run of, can we do more than one program at one time and still
Right.
be able to be everywhere that we need to be, get everything done that we need to do? So that's how the idea of flag football, and that's where the opportunity of flag football came. One reason we're doing it this summer is because we're not doing soccer. I wouldn't be able to do flag football in the spring or the fall because all the fields that I use are for soccer, and I wouldn't give those fields up because they are our biggest program.
Well, let's give folks, what are the ages, what are the requirements for these, for both football and the volleyball?
So flag football is upcoming 1st through 8th grade. So for the next year, so for your 26-27 school year, 1st through 8th grade. Volleyball is upcoming 5th through 10th grade. Same thing for the upcoming school year, 26-27 school year. They need to be in 5th grade through 10th.
What's the cost?
Flag football is still to be determined because we have not, at this moment, decided if we'll be able to move forward. It's probably going to cost $40.
Okay.
Volleyball is $35.
Okay. Very well. Very good. And again, deadline to register your child for that is this Sunday, June the 7th, I believe is the correct date. Well, I tell you, Andrew, thank you so much for being with us today. We covered a lot of ground. Hopefully you learned something out there about the Page County Rec Department, that they have a lot going on and they do a lot for this community. And I tell you, this community rec center idea, I am behind it. As long as it is approached in the right way, I think it's going to be not that huge of a financial hit to us, and a good benefit for the entire community. Hey, we got Andrew Good running the show, so we don't have anything to worry about right here. Got a good man in the position. I want to thank you so much for being with us today and answering some of our questions about the Page County Rec Department. And if you liked our show today, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Page Valley News. We want to thank our sponsor, Luray Caverns, and let you know that next week we're going to be talking with Luray artist Gary Grant, so make sure you tune in for episode 119. We want to thank Eleanor Arrington for all of her work behind the camera and in the editing room this week. And as always, as how we end each and every show, we want to remind you to go down to the Page County Animal Shelter and help one of our furry friends find a forever home. For Andrew Good, I'm Randy Arrington from Ralph Dean Park, saying until next week, enjoy that Page Valley living.